Two trolls go to war. Okay, I'm going to do the troll I feed. But first I'm going to suggest two useful channels, maybe. One of them I was just reacquainted with, Tarl Warwick, otherwise known as Sticks, Hex, and Hammer, Sticks, Hex and Hammer 666 on YouTube. He's one of these guys who fancies himself to be, you know, he's the heavy metal, devil-worshipping, you know, stereotype. And he does videos on all sorts of things. Don't look into him because I found him once before. It's tongue-in-cheek mostly. Or not. It depends on how you look at it. Interesting subject matter. And another man named Vern Taylor, otherwise known as Mini-Me from the movies. Just him doing his vlog. Now, why am I bringing them up? Because even if you don't want to look at them, I'm not providing a link to the two trolls I'm going to be going after today. So the first one we're going to talk about is the one who claims, I hope all you liberal babies can defend yourself when the time comes. So now that we have a veiled threat, here's the response. I know how to make any weapon I want to, and I can use it better than you can. And you don't scare anybody who can do that. Growing up in the desert, you learn stuff. Next, the point should not be where the evil horde of Muslim black people from Africa are entering the United States. Okay. And then guess what this person immediately does. Now, the thing is, there's some stereotypical things that people do when they're trolling. It shouldn't be whether or not 2 + 2 = 4, but I'm going to discuss it at length for a half hour. Okay? And his statement is, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of military-aged men entering our country. But you won't provide proof of it, and one of the ways to prove it is where they're entering or when or why. And you're ignoring that in favor of going off on a little detail that you got wrong. Here we go. Haitians would enter Brownsville, USA instead of San Ysidro. Okay, except that I explained in the video that the Haitians weren't able to go through Cuba to go to, let's say, Florida or any other port. They ended up having to go to South America, which is further away and doesn't make any sense, but that's what they had to do, and that's very well reported on by people in Haiti, South American countries, the U.S. government, and the Border Patrol people, and the people in Mexico who have to deal with them, because then they went up through, yes, there's a connection, up through Central America into Mexico and headed towards the United States. Now, along the way, they kept trying to find asylum or just a better place to live, and they just kept having to go north. If they thought to go to Chile or some other place even further into South America, maybe it would have been better off. But Haiti, the population, which is less than 1% Muslim, it's actually much less than 1% Muslim, had an earthquake, and they were told basically that they could get asylum in the United States if they could find their way there. And the easiest, fastest, cheapest, or only way in some cases was to go through places like Brazil. And you ignored that in the video because you want to say they would have gone in a straight line, not 2,400 miles out of the way. They would have gone through the Gulf Coast into Brownsville, USA. Except that's not what they actually did, and you ignored the entire video. Next you say, all you brain surgeons need to learn your geography. I don't even with this, okay? Seriously, what the hell were you doing here? Anyway, factual recording. They did, in fact, do this. Where's Brownsville, USA? Is it anywhere connected to the Mexican border in a way that would be easier to get through or have a better situation to go through? Is it authorized to have people sit there? Does it have a space that they can sit for weeks while they're waiting to get processed through? I mean, really? Okay, you didn't look any of this up, and you claim to have some sort of... You're coming on a high horse and falling on your face. Hope all you liberal babies can defend yourself. I'm a person who knows how to make a gun. I don't own a gun. I know how to make a gun out of whatever's available. If I don't have access to that, I know how to disarm a person and use their own weapon against them. That's a lot more valuable than you showing up to a gunfight saying, you're unarmed. That's nice. All I have to have is a rock and I can get it out of your hand because it can bop you in the head hard. I'm sorry, but I got to say this about all of the keyboard commandos out there. A lot of you rely on the idea, I've got a gun, I can defend myself. Unless you've actually had to defend yourself at all with a gun, you do not know how difficult that is. It is incredibly difficult to use a gun to defend yourself if the other person isn't running away from you. And in fact, if they're running away from you, it makes it harder. If they're just standing there shooting, this is not a real viable option. You do not know what you're talking about. I hope you all know how to defend yourself. Yeah, we do. Most people do. we glom onto you in a crowd and push you to the ground and strip you naked and paint you purple and then giggle at you while you say, I'm an American. I don't care. You're now a purple meanie. Shut up. Next. Second troll. Third from the left. No, not you. Yeah, you. Go to hell. Gotta point them out in the crowd. Anyway, here we go. And no, I'm not leaving links to their channel names or anything. I'm going to delete them from the screen. Really unpronounceable and really ostentatious secondary named troll. You're not pretty. No, you may be pretty, but you're not real intelligent. This person has been posting this all over YouTube. They're just trolling. And then this person whips out this diatribe, cut and pasted from, I don't know, I'll give you an idea. I've been doing this for over 50 years and worked in the precincts in both sides of the political aisles, and you just don't understand or refuse to acknowledge our election system and laws, and I'll guarantee you there's massive voter fraud in Democrats each and every election. Anybody who's actually done elections knows that election fraud, or more accurately, voter fraud, which is the wrong term. Election fraud is the term. If you actually working the precincts, I'm assuming that you're just an activist, you don't know what the word is. Voter fraud means individual people faking votes, either voting multiple times or doing something else to mess with a vote. Election fraud is the term you're looking for. There are cases of that, and one of them I point out, and only one of them, I only point out the one with the Democrats. I'm asking everyone to point out where it was. This was years ago. Ballot stuffing. That's actually how it's done, because one person casting in one extra vote isn't going to do jack. But one person casting 1,000 votes has an effect. Obviously. And anybody who argues with me on that point is an idiot. Or a Breitbart fan. So anyway, this idiot also then posts, Hillary only won 57 counties out of 3,000. Obviously, mathematically, that wouldn't work to get her any of the votes. She wouldn't have had any electoral votes if she only had 57 counties. You'd have to get at least 30% or 15% actually, or something like that. It's a really small percentage, but you can win an election with a very small percentage of locations, but not that small. And in the video I posted that this person posted to, I pointed that out. Mathematically, you can win with an insanely low minority of the population voting, and you just have to win a certain number of precincts, not counties. It's not based on counties. It's based on gerrymandered precincts and districting. Okay? Yeah, that's really how it works. And if you've been doing this for 50 years, you'd know that not to use the word voter fraud. The people who use voter fraud and also the number 57 counties, the ones who watched that or read that Breitbart article that originally had a completely phonied up map of where Hillary Clinton won. They're just claiming that reality didn't happen. I could use the same criteria to get rid of Trump as the president if I wanted to. It's the same rule. Oh no, we don't apply it evenly. We only apply it to people we don't like. And again, I've only said that I've caught Democrats involved in election fraud. None of the people posting this dribble are going to cover that, because that's actually how you screw up an election. That's how you falsify an election result. You mess with the electoral system, the election system. You don't mess with individual people voting. You can't. There's 300 million people in the United States would be risking a pretty good period of time in jail for voter fraud. Voter fraud actually is something you can be thrown in jail for. You see all those ads, right? That were trying to scare people into not voting a certain way? Yeah, they're not very far off. You'd have to pay me. This is the rule I do. This is actually how you do it. Someone asked me about this. Would you ever do anything illegal as a computer security geek? Well, most of the time when a computer geek does something that's technically listed as illegal, it's not actually against the law. It's just that there's a penalty involved because you get sued by a corporation. So you find out how much they sue for. The basic fine for violating the electronic security system of blah, blah, blah is about $10,000, and it's a year in jail. I believe in triple level. So I'd have to be paid $30,000 for the risk minimum. Then I'd evaluate the risk and maybe charge more. That's almost the same. That's about 3 times the fine for vote fraud if you get prosecuted, which almost never happens. They just tell you, they just take away your right to vote the next year because they just declare you a felon, then you can't vote. So they've fixed the problem and they take your money away from you. But if there was jail time, I would be wanting to be paid at least $10,000, $20,000. Okay, now that would be if someone was intelligent enough to, risk factor check it. You're going to get a bunch of people in the United States who are very vulnerable because you're claiming they're all illegal aliens, They're very vulnerable to actual prison time first, then a fine, and then being thrown out of the country and put on a watch list to cast a single vote that wouldn't affect the election. They'd be casting you'd be buying votes or having them cast a couple of votes extra. No, you need someone at the precinct level, like this person claims to be, phoning up results. Now, that has been caught, and I only mentioned Democrats being caught. I'm deliberately asking people to point out even that. I even stated the city it was in. No one will post a link to that. Nobody comes here to my channel telling me that somehow or other Trump won the popular vote. He should have. You would think he would, but he actually didn't. It's by 2 million. No one will post proof of it. You won't even post proof of the Democrats doing it, even when I tell you I'm aware of one incident where they did. It was 30 people or 20 people or whatever that did it. And they got caught. The reason for this is when you get caught, you're screwed. Because in the precinct level, you will go to prison. Because you're tampering with the election. And that's considered a form of sabotage for the United States. It's considered sabotaging the election. Not because you get Trump in or Hillary in, but because no one believes the vote was valid, which is much more dangerous. In other countries where that's happened, they've had mass riots and burning downs of their capital cities because people figured out they were lied to about the vote, and they burned down the homes of the military junta that put people in place. They rebelled. So for our own best interest, we don't want an election like that. That's the reason one side keeps saying we don't believe the election was fraudulent, and the other side keeps screaming that it was obviously faked, and then doesn't want to recount. None of this is really consistent with reality, guys and gals. Yeah, I'm saying Trump's an idiot. I'm saying he's stupid for doing this after winning an election, continually repeating the meme, because he knows it'll rile people up, even though it points straight back at them, because they won. And it's a suspicious-looking election because they got the Electoral College to go along with them, against the will of the mass of the population. So their excuse is they'll just make up another conspiracy theory that makes even less sense. And remember, before the election, they were saying, yeah, if the popular vote doesn't match the Electoral College, we know the Electoral College was bought off. Well, now they're not saying that anymore, because it looks bad for them. That's all. I'm perfectly okay with the outcome. Everybody else comes to my channel getting mad at me because I pointed out the facts and statistics of it. But anyway, I'll just review. Our second troll of the day quoted Breitbart, and actually misquoted them, claims to have been involved in this for over 50 years, so therefore the person would have to be 70 probably at this point, and used the wrong term, called it voter fraud when it's called election fraud, and claims that only Democrats do voter fraud. Again, it's election fraud, not voter fraud, because it's not efficient doing that, and ignored the entire point of the video. And the other one ignored the entire point of the video where I'm claiming that you can look up the fact that the supposed Muslim mobs from Africa are actually Haitians that went in through other countries and ended up going up through Mexico because that was easier, even though it doesn't make any sense. And it's well documented. Both of these individuals just contradicted me. Both of them ignored any sources that are real. Neither of them provided any form of proof. And hey, I got something to look up. I can look up Brownsville, USA's port of entry and see if it's got anything to do with anything. Other than that, this is pretty much a smearing match. Again, Vern Traore and Tarl Warwick are listed below. Better channels to look up than these idiots. One of them is Mini-Me, and the other one is trying to be the image of the Satan-worshipping rocker. At least that's what he looks like. I can't remember. I've only seen 2 of his videos a year ago. Don't even know if he's a good channel, but this would be better at least because they show their faces and you can find out what they're talking about. And hey, at least they're not posting stuff that's just contrarian BS. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that.